I'd like to welcome back to the program aviation safety and National Airspace System expert, Philip Mann. And Philip, thank you so much for your time again. We've been talking about these outages. When I first heard about this latest one, I immediately thought of Denver International Airport. This did not happen there. Explain how this Denver Air Route Traffic Control Center works in conjunction with the airports.
Sure. What the center does, the center controls all the air traffic about 18,000 feet and above. If you want, that's called Class A airspace. And if you really want to think about it kind of as a simple division, that's where the professionals fly. That's where the high-speed big jets fly. That's where the military aircraft fly. Everybody up there is on a flight plan. Everybody is on instrument rules. So they're on known paths, and they're distributed by time. They're not distributed by how close they can see somebody else. So it doesn't matter what they can see. They're routed based on their the intervals between them leaving certain checkpoints and stuff like that. But that's where the professionals fly. Now, what happens is when somebody is taxiing around an airport and they take off, that's the control of the local tower. Once they take off and get a little bit of air altitude, then they transfer over to what's called a radar control facility. There's a few different kinds of them. And then they transition from there up to center airspace or to their destination if they're very, very close. But up where the air route control centers are, that's where all the professionals fly. That's where all the instrument jets and stuff are at. And it's not a super horrible thing that they lost communication for a little bit of time, because up there, like I said, they're not seconds apart. They're many, many, many miles apart, and everybody is already in a sequence and already in on a route where they shouldn't come into conflict with anybody else, basically, if they just stay on the route they intend to fly.
Okay, so we're not talking about like the congested routes at an airport that the public is flying in and out. Okay, right. But Philip, how concerning is this? And I ask because, considering this is at least the third that has been made public, so that the public's been made aware of in just as many weeks of these outages.
It's concerning. It's concerning a bit because little outages. I say little. I mean, little communication outages, little radar system outages happen all the time. But to have, in this case, what sounds like an entire sector, not the whole map, so not the entire area you were showing there of Denver International's 280 some odd thousand square miles, but some sector in there lost primary radios and had to go to the backup radios. That's kind of, that's a little concerning that it affected a whole sector. But there are, especially in that kind of airspace, there are all kinds of robust fallbacks and remedial technologies that are in play. There's a primary radio, a secondary radio, a backup radio, an emergency radio, all kind of in that chain of, if this doesn't work, go to the next one. So it's not super concerning. I mean, I'm more concerned about the things that have happened at the airports themselves, or at the terminal radar, that lower level of radar control, because those are much more condensed airspace, and you're much more likely in those lower levels to run into to have people flying around who are trainee pilots or who are trying to climb or descend down to a runway or something, and that just doesn't happen at that really high level.
Okay, so we've heard a bit from the Transportation Secretary. I'd like to listen to more of what he's said recently.
Listen, everybody in America flies. This is not partisan. This is not about a partisan issue. I think they've all realized how old and antiquated the system is.
Watchdog groups have warned the DOT that the infrastructure was failing, and nothing was done. So we're going to do something about it. We're going to try to fix it.
All right. So, Philip, do you think we're going to continue to hear about more of these outages until some sort of fix is rolled out? How dangerous is the situation? I know you mentioned the fallbacks. If one system fails, there's something else, but are those fallbacks fail safe?
Yeah, I mean, there is a point where if you run out of fallbacks, if you have a failure, then a failure, then a failure, then a failure, then potentially, you run out of fallback space. But I think we're probably going to see incidents like this happen, plus or minus what's impacted depending on maintenance staffing and stuff like that, because there is a maintenance staffing shortage along with the air traffic shortage. Both sides of that have been short going clear back to 1980s and the air traffic controller strike. But I think that there's enough pressure on it now that we may see some more push on a modernization. There is an existing modernization effort that's been ongoing since the beginning of fiscal year 2004. It's called the Next Gen Modernization. I think we mentioned this a little bit last time we spoke. And the thing is that the $1.2 billion that I see on the screen there, that is way below what you're going to need to modernize this stuff.
Wow.
And I think, and I mean, they're thinking about, I think in Secretary Duffy's plan, he mentioned the 618 radar sites. Those 618 radar sites all by themselves are going to exceed that 1.2 billion. And that's only one type of system out of over 100 types of systems. And if they're going to do a wholesale renovation, you could probably add 2 more zeros to that pretty safely. And then add, it's not going to be 3 to 4 years. It's going to be 10 years or 10 to 15 years if they have unlimited resources and unlimited people and everything works out just perfectly, and the airlines don't decide to fight it again when they have to pay for some additional equipment on their aircraft, which is what happened before, and set that whole modernization back 7 years because they were busy fighting theirs when it came. They were all supporting it until it came to their turn to pony up and pay their part of it.
Last question for you. Is it safe to fly?
It is absolutely safe to fly. I think it's a thing that all these things are showing up and they sound bad, but if you notice what's happening, even at Newark, even at Newark and even in those northeastern airports where they're kind of close together and they're all in that same sort of, they've all kind of experienced those outages. They're reducing traffic. The fallback systems are generally working. The fallback procedures are working. And the FAA, if it sticks to its historic routes, it will reduce the air traffic allowed into airports to a level that is safe for that airport, regardless of who it upsets. If the airlines are upset about it, or the passengers are upset about it, but it's not safe to go up to any more flights, they'll keep it at a lower level.
Okay.
All the way down to zero if necessary. The mission of the FAA is to maintain a safe and efficient national airspace system. And unless something crazy has happened in the last couple of years, that is what they're going to continue doing until the end of time.
Okay. Well, and that's certainly reassuring news, because I know a lot of people are really starting to get uneasy about all of this. Okay. Safety expert Philip Mann, thank you as always.
Thanks.
All right, we have some